Hey guys, welcome to the weekly question video. If you like these question videos, give this video a like. Subscribe if you're not already. Leave us a comment. All of those things really do help us out. But if you want to support what we're doing, dive deeper into the topic of domestic discipline, the best place to do that is over on Patreon. So a link to our Patreon is in the description box for you. On this week's question video, somebody asked me, what do you mean by feeling off? I've mentioned in the past about asking for correction when I'm feeling off. And so somebody was asking me, like, what does that even mean? And so I thought I would go through, what does it mean to be feeling off? Why would I ask for correction to help fix those issues, and how that all works? So feeling off can include just being in a bad mood. I think we've all had those times where we've woken up on the wrong side of the bed and we're just in a bad mood. We're just grumpy. And so that is definitely one of those feelings where if I'm noticing that I'm just in a mood where nothing is going right, where I'm just have a lack of patience, I will ask for correction for that. Now, how does that help? It helps me put everything into a proper perspective. It helps me understand my role under the authority of Coda. It helps me understand my place in the relationship, and it just helps me kind of reframe how I'm looking at the day. If I allow that bad mood to continue, that can and does take root and kind of affects my whole day. But if I go to him and I ask for a correction for that, and I can get out of that mood, if I can get that all of those feelings rectified, if I can reframe how I am approaching the day, then it really does help set me up for a better day. The next thing that contributes to just feeling off is if I'm feeling really dysregulated. Dysregulation is something that is very, very close to just being in a bad mood, but I feel like dysregulation is different than just being in a bad mood, because when I'm in a bad mood, I can't necessarily pinpoint why. Typically, if I'm feeling dysregulated, I can almost always pinpoint why. I can either pinpoint to something that happened, something that I've been thinking about, something that's been going on in my mind, and it just is throwing me off. I'm feeling super dysregulated. And I will go and ask for correction to help my regulation. And again, that just helps by putting everything into a proper perspective. And it helps by, just helping me organize my thoughts, kind of quiet that dysregulation. And it helps, again, just put me under the authority of my head of household. I think that you'll find a common theme through all of these is that as a taken in hand, I need my head of household to lead me and to guide me. And when I am feeling outside of my own ability to manage my own emotions, when I'm feeling outside of my ability to manage my regulation, I need my head of household to step in and help me with that, because they can, and because Coda is able to step in, offer that regulation, offer that leadership, offer that guidance, and that starts with correction to help me get into a proper perspective and to accept his leadership and to accept his guidance and put me back into a proper place within the relationship. And that really does help. It really does. I don't know how to explain it other than just saying, like, it really does help me be able to move forward with a better perspective and a better attitude. And again, if I can ask him for that help, if he can provide that help, and I can have a better day, then there's no need to try to manage myself on my own. There's really no need for me to try to fix these problems on my own, because again, as a taken in hand, I am to submit myself to my head of household, and by trying to fix myself, by trying to manage my own emotions or manage my own regulation or manage my own problems, that is not putting myself under my head of household that is actually acting outside of his authority, which leads to bigger problems. If nothing else, I will say that my track record of being able to fix my own problems is pretty low. I usually end up needing Coda to step in and help me and lead me and guide me. But if I let myself get so dysregulated or so just off in my mood or emotions, it leads to bigger problems and typically requires more discipline to get me back into proper position in my relationship. And so it just helps to be able to go to him right away so that those problems don't take root, so that those issues don't end up becoming bigger problems. And so that is another reason. A third reason why I might just be feeling off is just a general uneasiness. This can be just a baseline unease of the day. This could be worry. This could be stress. This could be just not knowing what to expect, or, just having a general unease. Again, this just goes into not being able to kind of shake those feelings of something just feels off within me, something feels off about the day, and I just need to be reminded that I am under authority and that my head of household is leading, he is guiding, and he's got me, he's in control. And so by going through correction, it reminds me of those things, that I am under his authority, that he is in control, that he is managing everything, and that I don't need to feel uneasy. And that really does help kind of ease those feelings of uneasiness within me when they creep up. Another thing that can just contribute to me being off is feeling outside of my role. This typically happens when I haven't necessarily broken any rules, or I haven't been disciplined in a while. It can also happen when things are just not as consistent as they should be. But if I start to feel outside of my role, and I start to feel like I need to do things on my own, if I need to kind of manage things on my own, that can really contribute to me feeling off. Now, this is probably one of the ones that is hardest for me to recognize within myself, because it creeps in, and it's not something that I experience very often, sometimes, but it's hard for me to recognize it. And so this is one, unfortunately, that does typically end up leading to bigger problems. But if I can catch it, if I can recognize it, then it is best to go to Coda, ask for that correction so that I can feel within my role again. Because when I act outside of my role, I am not honoring his authority and his leadership. I am not submitting myself under his authority. I am going outside of that role to kind of do things for myself and manage the household. And I'm less likely to ask his permission. I'm less likely to go to him to get his approval and opinion on things. I'm less likely to even keep him in the forefront of my mind to kind of consider his preferences in what I'm doing. All of those things happen less often when I am acting outside of my role. And so if I can catch this before it starts to creep into those other areas, then it is by far better to go to Coda and just ask to kind of be brought back into my role through the use of correction. And so this is a big one. This is one that I definitely try to be very aware of, because it really does lead to the breakdown of the relationship really quickly if I'm not careful. And kind of going hand in hand with that, another thing that can kind of make me feel off is when I'm not leaning on to my head of household. When I am not looking to Coda for guidance, when I am not looking to Coda to offer leadership, when I am not deferring to his decisions, when I am not, seeking out his opinions, his decisions, his approval, when I'm not seeking those things out, when I'm not leaning into his leadership, that can really throw me off. And typically, if that's happening, it really does go hand in hand with not acting within my role. Those two can kind of go hand in hand together, but they both lead to the same place where I really do need that correction to bring me back under authority, to remind me of my position in the relationship, to remind me of Coda's position in the relationship, and kind of put those authority structures back in place in a very tangible way. And kind of the last thing is trying to figure it out all on my own. Again, these are kind of all going together. But when I try to figure things out for myself, when I try to kind of, again, assume Coda's decisions, now that is a rule that we have, is that I'm not to assume his decisions. I am to always get confirmation of what he would like, and to get confirmation that he is actually okay with the decisions that I am trying to make. Because there are going to be times where I have to make decisions, but I should do so under his leadership. And so I always need to seek out and make sure that he approves of what I'm doing, that he doesn't want me to do something else. I need to ask permission to make sure that what I'm thinking of is actually within his authority. But when I don't do that, when I start to kind of assume his decisions, or when I start to kind of try to do things on my own or try to handle things on my own, it can lead to a lot of anxiety. It can lead to a lot of uneasiness. And it really does just kind of lead into me not being within my role. Because again, I need to always keep in mind that I am under Coda's authority, that I'm under his leadership, that he is my head of household. And as such, I should be seeking his approval. I should be seeking his guidance. I should be deferring to his decisions. And when I don't do that, I do need correction at the very least. I mean, some of those things would be punishments, like if I'm assuming his decisions, if I am making decisions outside of his authority, if I'm, going around him in order to kind of get what I want. All of those things would be leaning into punishment. Of course, that would be ultimately his decision. But if I'm that dysregulated to where I am just kind of going around him in order to do what I want, that probably would end up in punishment way more often than it would end in correction. And so there is an expectation that I need to honor Coda's authority, and when I don't, it's very disrespectful. And respect, again, is something that he holds very highly. And so if I am disrespectful, then that is definitely going to, more often than not, end in a punishment rather than a correction. But if I can catch the seeds of these thoughts before I start to act upon them, if I can notice that I'm being tempted towards those thought processes before they become actions, and I can ask for that correction before they become bigger problems, before it becomes active misbehavior, then I can ask for the correction. I can be brought back under authority. I can right that wrong thinking, and that puts me into a better position in my relationship. That creates the authority structures that we want within our relationship. That reminds me of Coda's position in the relationship, and it really does just create more cohesive structures within what we are trying to do, and it just creates a proper mindset. And so that is why I ask for correction when I'm just feeling off, and that is an explanation of what it means when I say feeling off. My main struggle is just allowing my moods and my emotions to convince me that I need to do things on my own, that I don't want to bother my head of household, or that my head of household is too busy, or that he doesn't have time. And so all of my like moods and emotions can lend themselves to the thought processes of like, oh, I just need to take care of this because he doesn't have time. I shouldn't be bothering him. That is absolutely not true. Coda has told me time and time again that he wants me coming to him, that I am his priority, and that he always has time for me, and that I need to be getting his approval. I need to be getting permission. I need to be seeking his decisions. And so when I don't, that's a big problem. And he also wants me coming to him when I'm feeling the temptation towards those thought processes so that he can give me correction, so that he can give me guidance to bring me back under his authority so that I start to have correct thinking in our relationship, so that it doesn't lead to communication breakdowns, so that it doesn't lead to bigger issues, so that it doesn't lead to problems that then need to be addressed through punishment. And so it really does help kind of stop problems before they start when we can address them with correction early. It really does help just keep our relationship on a good trajectory and towards our goals. And it just helps us not get to the place where we're having major relationship problems. And it helps me avoid a lot of punishments to go this route. And so that's why we started to use this system of correction specifically for mood regulation, specifically for emotional regulation, so that I can avoid punishment and we can avoid a lot of problems in our relationship. So thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed that one. Hope that gave you some perspective on what it means to feel off and why we use correction to fix those problems. And we will talk to you guys next time.